Hello everyone, Gaara here and welcome to a brand new video. Today I want to talk about the current state of Hearthstone. I don't think that if you would nerf Jade Druid now or Ultimate Infestation that it would actually fix the issues we have in Constructed. I think the problems will just go to the next level. If you would just nerf Ultimate Infestation to a point where the card is just unplayable, then we would just go back to Auctioneer and Earthen Scales and still play Jade Druid. And if we just nerf Jade Druid, I think something similar would happen as with Quest Rogue. It was very predictable, to be honest, and I expected it as well. If we just nerf Quest Rogue, the problem will just go to the next layer, which was Jade Druid. Quest Rogue kind of replaced Jade Druid as the anti-control deck, and yeah, if we would nerf Jade Druid to unplayability, then we would just move to the next layer. If that will actually happen, I think people will be way more frustrated with the game as they are right now. The actual problem in Constructed lies way deeper and is way more complex and complicated. It is not just Jade Druid. It is a whole group of cards. I like to call the group random value generation cards, and those cards are extremely powerful. They're staple in many decks, and if anti-control decks like Jade Druid and Quest Rogue completely leave the game, it could very likely be that Jade Druid would just get replaced by Quest Mage and Kazakus Priest, and that they are just like so powerful that they just push out all the other control decks. So basically the meta will just change to those decks replacing Jade Druid pretty much, and we will still see all the other same decks. And if we would have a full like balanced meta with aggro decks and all sorts of control decks, pretty much what people want, games would be decided by cards like Stonehill Defender, Draconic Operative, Yogg-Saron, like the list goes on and on. I will feature a bunch of these cards in my series Worst Designed Hearthstone Cards from a competitive standpoint. This is why I honestly don't believe that just simply nerfing Jade Druid will change anything whatsoever. I think even the opposite would be the case. People would be way more frustrated than they are right now, because now you can focus and channel your hatred towards Druid, towards aggro Druid and Jade Druid. It's like, you know, because it is so dominant on the ladder, like the popularity of Druid goes up to 60%, and you can really distract from all the real issues in Hearthstone, funnel your hate towards Druid because this is what you only see. But if you would nerf Jade Druid, you would actually see how fucked up Constructed is. Cards like Kazakus, which have such a wide range of outcomes that you can get. For example, if you rely on your Kazakus against an aggressive deck to get the 5 mana board clear, which is only a 50% chance, this is completely unreliable. But it can be the best spell in the game, and the card is too powerful to be played. There's a lot of cards like that, like Patches, if you summon it for free from your deck, and if you just play it from your hand, how it changes your win rates. The real issue is really that we are getting a lot of cards that give us pretty much infinite resources, but they have a heavy RNG aspect to it. For example, cards like Netherspite Historian, where we have a very high chance as a priest, for example, to discover Draconic Operatives. And if you get multiple Draconic Operatives, and Draconic Operatives has a very high chance to steal a very powerful card from the opponent. Just when you look at this scenario, you play against a Paladin and you play Draconic Operative, a Paladin would usually not keep Tyrion in his starting hand. So the chance is very high that when you play the Operative, he still has Tyrion somewhere in the deck. And if he has around 22 cards still left in the deck and you can discover 3, the chance is relatively high. It's definitely above 10% to just get the Tyrion. And just think about that scenario. If you play a matchup where you're trying to out-resource your opponent, getting an additional Tyrion is insane. And if you look at cards like Netherspite Historian, who can discover you multiple Draconic Operatives, and those Draconic Operatives can give you like insane value cards, like Tyrion. And the same goes for Stonehill Defender, which is absolutely staple, not just in Control Paladin decks and Nuzov Control Paladin decks, but also in Murloc Paladin decks. It is actually very reasonable that sometimes very often actually you will have games where you discover multiple Sunkeeper Tarims and multiple Tyrions from your Stonehill defenders. And if you play a Paladin Mirror, oftentimes the game is decided by who gets the better value out of his Stonehill defender, because the card is just too powerful, and that is not okay. And this is actually a very big issue in Hearthstone, and I don't even know how you can fix this, because there's way too many cards that have such a swing. It is ridiculous. Cards like Barnes, for example, the new Big Priest, for example, the win rate if you have a Barnes on turn 4 compared to not having the Barnes is ridiculous. And if you full mulligan for Barnes, the chance that you have Barnes is around, let's say, 25%. So every 4th game you will have the Barnes, and then you play a tier 1 deck, and in the other 3 out of 4 games you play like a mediocre tier 3 deck. It's absolutely focused on super high roll and super swing decks. The same goes for patches and cards like that. If we don't have decks like Jade Druid. Jade Druid has very little RNG right now. People are not even playing Yogg-Saron. It's just that the overall power level of Jade Druid is just through the roof. It's way too powerful. It was already tier 1 before Ungoro. Don't get me wrong. Ultimate Infestation is too powerful. It is the first card that I featured in my the worst design cards in Hearthstone. And it should definitely be nerfed. Every card I'm gonna talk about in that series is too strong in my opinion and has to be nerfed. What I'm saying is, or what I'm trying to say is, that just nerfing Jade Druid will absolutely not fix the issues we have in Hearthstone. And there's just so many cards that have such like RNG component into them with like random insane swings and value generation that can just win you the game. Cards like Yogg-Saron are the prime example. Even after Yogg-Saron got nerfed, it found its way back into multiple tier 1 decks for like the last Dream Hacks, right before Knights of the Frozen Throne. Just because the swing potential of Yogg-Saron is too crazy. You can be completely behind on board on life pool hand size, and you can still like come back into the game 40% of the time, which is way too outrageous. It is not okay to have cards like that in the game. Cards like Barnes. But the list goes on and on. Elise, for example. Elise is just very powerful card. If you would have a control meta and not a Jade Druid, Quest Mage and Quest Rogue meta, which just hard counter control decks, we would just stuff in decks with cards like Elise, Deadman's Hand, Archchief, Benedictus. It's like, how would you even outplay your opponent? Like, how could you outvalue a priest that plays Archbishop Benedictus? And then again, it comes down to draw RNG. Benedictus can technically be your last card in your deck and it's completely useless, or you just hit it on turn 7. So if that would be the meta, then it would come down to who draws the Benedictus on 7 and you just win pretty much. Or like with Warrior with Double Deadman's Hand. I think the meta would be even unhealthier. We can't even have a control meta. Back in the days, I was hoping for nothing but a control meta, but also always with a healthy amount of aggro decks. I think aggro decks are super important in Hearthstone because they naturally balance the game. If there wouldn't be aggro decks existing in the game, people would just stuff the decks with brainless value decks. Cards like, back in the days, cards like Ysera, Archchief Rafam, and cards like that. Nowadays, we would just play cards like Elise, Lyra, Nezov, you know, Deadman's Hand, just full of value, but those cards just generate so much extra value, like Lyra, for example. And it's too much RNG is involved in that can completely change the outcome of the game, which is not healthy because there's zero skill aspect to it. If I play Lyra and I play 2 spells and I get 2 mind controls in a control mirror, that has nothing to do with skill, but those 2 mind controls will win me the game, which is crazy when you think about it. I think the problem in Hearthstone is very deep and very complicated and affects many cards in many classes. And if you would just nerf Jade Druid or Ultimate Infestation, as I said, if you nerf Ultimate Infestation, we would just go back to Auctioneers and Earthen Scales. And because we still have the Spreading Plague, which is a good anti-aggro card, so Druid in general is just stronger versus aggro right now, but we don't necessarily rely on the Ultimate Infestation. And if we change Jade Druid completely, we will just either play only Quest Mage, which is equally as unfun, some people might say, or like just getting destroyed by Reno Priest, because Priest has the strongest decay in the game, arguably. This is my opinion. I'm very curious about what you guys have to say about that. I always had an answer to how I would fix the game, but right now, honestly, I was also interviewed about this topic yesterday. Right now, I wouldn't know. Like, you just have to remove an insane amount of cards that are really bad for the game if you seriously want to make the game competitive again. Yeah, as I said, nerfing Jade Druid might actually turn out to be a horrible decision and make the game worse than before. Just changing Innervate would make it feel more winnable to play against Druid. And there's so many situations where you just auto-lose because of combinations like Innervate into Fledgling. Yeah, if you don't have an answer for that on turn 2, and this is just maths, right? Let's say I have 2 Doomsayers in my deck. I full mulligan for the Doomsayers. I have around 45% to get them if I go first. And you have the Innervate Fledgling, and I don't hit the Doomsayer. I will most likely lose the game just to that Innervate Fledgling, that card combo. This has nothing to do with skill. It's just high roll, draw RNG. And there's a lot of these things in the game that require 0 to no skill, that just win you the games or increase your win rate by an insane percentage. The same with patches, for example. Patches is also really bad for the game, because if you draw patches in your starting hand, it really decreases your win rate by down to 30%. But if you summon it from your deck, it increases your win rate by up like 30%. It's just crazy swing. And yeah, I think the real issues lie much deeper. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, give me a thumbs up if you like this kind of content, and I will definitely make more of this kind of content in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and see you guys tomorrow. Peace!